Welcome to episode 2 of Growth Purposes Only podcast. Last episode, we talked about my personal story, and come to find out, it wasn't personal at all. It was very much spiritual. I was under spiritual warfare. I was under attack. I had a lot of experiences in the wilderness that put me in a place where I had to eventually ask God for my salvation to be redeemed. Every experience that I endured was on a Satan's tactics to get me to fall under his ruling, to fall under his tricks. And these situations don't benefit anyone, not the people he uses, and not the person that is being under attack. During my experiences, I had to realize that this wasn't personal. A lot of times in last episode, I spoke on how, why me? Why was this happening to me? I was still being a good person. Why couldn't I find the love that I desire? Why are these things happening to me? And I had to really take a step back and get out of my ego. Like, this has nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me at all. I had to realize that Satan was attacking me, and I was up at bat in the wilderness with every situation that was put in place to destroy me, to make me give up. And every time I fought harder to get out of the situation, so the attacks became that much more stronger. Whether it be the attacks of my home, whether it be the attacks of my self-esteem, whether it be the attacks of my stability, my children, my mind, my physical being. All these different situations were very, very much wild. So that's why I call it the wilderness, because I was literally out there on my own, fighting for my soul, fighting for my right to be here and be able to tell my story to you guys. I recently had to take a step back through those times, and therapy kind of helped me with this part too, and get out of my own head and get out of my own way. As I journaled, as I meditated, I had to write things down that were going on in my mind, how I felt. I spoke affirmations. I talked about my manifestations. And it took me some time, but I had to realize that wasn't me at all. And I won't take credit for any of it. It was really God speaking to me through me. He knew my heart's desires. He knew what I longed for. And all those situations were meant to break me. And I kept rising to the occasion every single time, whether I tried again with a new partner, or whether a new goal, or, just new friendships. And every time I sought better, that was God, like, speaking through me. Like, it's easy to say we deserve these things, but we don't know where that deserving comes from. We don't know how to determine what we deserve. It's just something we tell ourselves, but really that's God talking to us, telling us what he has for us. And we just have to be open to receiving. And I went through a spiritual transition this past year. It really hit me at the end of 2023, where I realized that God was speaking to me, and this was all part of his plan. And we get into the moment to say God's timing, but it really is a thing. It really is a time where God is calling you, and if you can hear him, you respond. And I heard him, and it kind of breaks me down sometimes to this point, because I wish I would have heard sooner. I wish that I wouldn't have to experience a lot of the things that I went through. A lot of my accolades became things to feed my ego and not really my spirit. So I have all these accomplishments with no true meaning, and they have no purpose sometimes now, where I'm wherever God is planning to send me. Those things don't hold purpose here. So I wanted to share my spiritual journey with you guys. And I've said it before that the journey is not personal, but it's spiritual, and that's truly what it is. We get so caught up in our egos, like, I don't understand how this can happen to me, as if we're all not going through different situations. We get into our heads, or we want to make ourselves feel better and compare ourselves to the next person, but they're on a different journey than us. So it's easier to turn our nose up at other people's situations as if we're not going through our own. I don't think that our situation should be measured by someone else's. So my suffering, it was a lot. I can honestly say that to this day, sometimes I kind of burst into tears with everything I went through, with partners, with my parents, with family, with like superiors, my bosses, and just people in our regular day to day, such as doctors and nurses and friendships that where I felt like my voice wasn't there and I couldn't speak up for myself. Like I couldn't bring myself to the point of standing up for me. It took for me to break the cycle with my last relationship, and I'm like, enough is enough. I'm choosing me, and I really feel like that's when God was like, all right, it's her time. And I'm forever grateful for that timing. No matter how bad I wish I can go back and erase those events that took place, they really made me who I am today. I've become a better mother because of it. I've become a better friend because of it. I've become a better teacher, coach. I've just ultimately made everything else make sense with just talking to God. A lot of my plans are not the plans I had when I started, and that's okay. They say, tell God your plans and he'll laugh, right? So I'm at that part of my life like, ha ha, you thought, you were going to do this, you thought you were going to do that, and it's much greater than me. And I want to tell anybody else that is suffering with anything and they can't understand why they are in this position, and you really truly have to understand it is bigger than you and I. This mission, this plan that God has for the world, it's way bigger than we can fathom. So we just have to draw closer to him and find refuge in his plan and just have faith. That's the best thing I could really say for anyone going through any trials and tribulations. I had moments where I would sit in my room and cry because I couldn't understand. It took me a long time to actually even cry in front of my children. That was something my dad never cried in front of us, so I thought that was like, superior, like not showing emotions. My therapist had to make me feel comfortable with being emotional, crying, feeling embarrassed. That was like one emotion that I never liked. And just tying back to when I got pregnant, that first feeling of embarrassment was very hard for me with my peers, with my sisters, and my parents. I don't like how that feels. So any feelings of embarrassment, I kind of like pushed away. Like, I don't want to feel that. And I stray far away from any situation that puts me in that feeling. But I'm now embracing every emotion. I cry in front of my kids during my breakup. They couldn't understand. They were like, Mommy, like, what's wrong? And it's just like, my oldest, she was like, I don't know what to do. And I feel her, because there was times where my mom cried and I didn't know how to console her, because that's not nothing I ever witnessed. So I had to like realize, like, I can't be mad at this. I have to just show them that it's okay and practice consoling them the way that people should be consoled, or if it's even a right or wrong way. Honestly, it's really not. It's whatever you're comfortable with at the time. I do feel like my experience in the wilderness was very, very purposeful. It brought me here. It brought me ready to share. A lot of us get caught in our experiences, and we don't want to share with the world like what we had to do or where we had to go before we got where we are. And I wanted to make this as normal as possible, that you can't overcome anything put in your way to set you back. You have God on your side. He's never left us. You're not alone. And he's just waiting. He's just waiting on you to call on him. And this past breakup and last year, I was just like, all right, God, like, something has to give. Like, I am tired. I'm exhausted. It's been 8 years, 7, 8 years. and I still am not getting it right, especially when I was very intentional. I was trying. I made sure that this was an honorable relationship with no outside parties or complicated situations, at least for what I could control. I was very intentional and it still didn't work out. So I'm like, all right, something's still not right. Like, something's still not making sense to me. So I had to do some digging. So here I am, having faith in God's plan. And sometimes, I will not lie, it gets very, very hard because we want things the way we want them. We want what we want when we want it, and you have to take away the ego again. And I think I experienced the ego death even with the breakup. I had to really tell myself, like, P, this has nothing to do with you, like nothing. And I've learned through therapy that a lot of what people do has everything to do with them and not you. It's so easy to get caught up in ourselves, like, well, why would they do that to me? I've always been there. And it's not even about you. Like, that's selfish of you to even think that it's about you. It really is about the individual, because if Jesus can turn the other cheek, so can you. And so with that being said, I've learned to not take people's experiences personal and just understand that they're on their own journey, and when they're ready, they'll get there. And in the meantime, put up boundaries. Boundaries have been my best friend. I love everyone. I don't hold any hatred in my heart or any bitterness, and that has helped me remain, blessed in every situation. Like I said, it's so easy to get caught up in, I'm this, I'm that. Why would they do that to me? And God is forever forgiving us for our sins and giving us second chances, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, 11th. You know what I mean? It's nonstop. And who are we to say when someone has crossed the line or when someone has done too much? And so the goal is to be more Christ-like, at least for myself. And I hope that this platform helps me encourage you all to want to get there too. I learned to listen to God's voice. So during my breakup, I went through an experience of solitude where I had to shut out everyone's voice. I had to surrender. I had to stop calling on all the friends that I used to call on to. And I spoke on that in last episode about like me reaching out to a lot of my peers about what they would do. And I spoke on it being because my lack of experience, but it really didn't have anything to do with experience, because I lost complete trust in myself after finding out how much I disappointed my parents. I thought I couldn't trust myself anymore. So a lot of my decisions became decisions of people around me. And even those decisions didn't reflect who I was, and led to furthermore disappointing myself. And then my self-esteem continued to go down the drain. It's easy to get dressed up. It's easy to put on, nice clothes and get your hair done up nice. But what I was feeling in the inside, I don't think anybody would have ever known. A lot of times when I do share or talk to people about my personal experiences, a lot of people would never even think. I get it all the time, like, wow, I would have never known. And that's what we do. We make it glitz and glamour, and on social media we showcase what we want to show. And a lot of people just need realness. They just need authenticity. A lot of people wouldn't feel alone if a lot of people shared what they were experiencing. So I had to realize, like, I'm human just like everybody else. I don't have a superpower. I'm, other than, my personality and who I am, I'm just like you. I bleed the same way. So why hide what I'm going through? Why even let people make me feel less of my trials and tribulations because they're not willing to share their own? So during my solitude, I had to regain trust in myself. I had to hear my own voice. I sat back and I experienced situations without consulting anyone. And at the time, it was like, it felt good in those moments because I had already did the work. Like, I'm heading into my second year of therapy. So I'm like already knowing where I have to like draw lines or what forms of communication I wanted to embrace. Like I decided to be more private with my personal situations as I was dealing with them. And then I wanted to embrace more of a afterwards effect. Like, all right, afterwards, let me tell you how I did it. Like, let me tell you what happened versus like while I'm in the weeds, like while I'm out there, I don't want to share because then I'm calling on you when I should be calling on God. So it helped me hear my voice. It helped me hear God's voice. It helped me distinguish between what was truthfully right and wrong in a lot of my situations. So solitude has been my best friend. It gets really lonely sometimes. There's times where I want to call on people and share just like everything. And then there's other times where I'm like, P, you gotta keep going through this. Like you have to keep doing it by yourself before you can help other people. So it comes to a point where I start realizing in my solitude, what am I called here to do? I've been a teacher for the past 3 years. I've been in cheerleading my whole life, and I've started a tutoring business. I have other dreams and aspirations, and all of these are just things that look good on my resume. And I really had to figure out, like, what is it that I'm here to do? So in a lot of my friendships, I am the advice friend. I am the friend that everyone calls, or family member, because my family does it too. I have that non-biased perspective. So like a lot of people call on me to get my perspective of a situation. And most times they always say, you never choose my side. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to. I'm on the side that's right, and the way I look at things. So I always have been like that person, and I will honestly say sometimes it does get draining when you're just pouring. So there's moments where I kind of go back in my hermit mode, like, all right, enough of other people's energy. I got to feed my own soul. And that's what solitude has taught me, to put boundaries in place and not to be overwhelmingly available to other people during their rough times, because they have God to call on too. So excited to be able, and so fulfilled, honestly, to be able to help people during their processes and their trials and tribulations. But like I said, I'm not the ultimate answer. God is, and you really do have to call on him, because if you ask him, he will respond. He will answer. There's a lot of times where I called on him like, God, can you please help me? And then he give me an answer, and I'm like, I knew this was going to be the answer. But it's just like, it's still, I wanted the final answer, because I can tell myself it, and then I can always challenge myself, and I can always compare, like, but I saw it work. And he's like, no. So So I'm actually thankful for his presence in my life. I'm thankful for where I am today. I'm grateful because I really could have fell off. I really could have let the devil win. And I'm happy to be here to share my testimony with everyone else and make myself as humanly possible with you guys, because like I said, having authenticity is really what makes everyone else, the situation, seem normal. We're all going through something. I'm more in tune with myself. I don't call on anyone for advice these days. And it's a really good place to be, I can honestly say. Being able to trust yourself again, like having that moment of finding out you're 16, pregnant, and everyone's disappointed by you. I had that moment like, I don't make good decisions. I can't possibly be someone trustworthy, or why would I listen to myself? I did this or I did that. So if God forgives me, I have to learn to forgive myself. During my journey, it was much more easier to forgive other people first. I think because though I am who I am, it was just much more easier to accept their wrongdoings, like they're going through something, or excuse it, or just be in more understanding nature when it comes to other people. So it made like a lot of forgiving other people easier. Now, do these people get access to me the same? No, but I was able to forgive them, and I didn't have to walk around with bitterness. And when I seen people who are very uptight, and it does help in my healing journey, especially for me to still want to pursue someone romantically, and for platonic friendships, like I really would love more friends on my spiritual journey with me. And just so we can nurture each other, I water them, they water me, just not so much of me like draining myself. I've learned to embrace friendships that pour back into me. And I've kind of distanced myself from friendships where I was doing a lot of pouring and left depleted. It's not to say that those people didn't deserve my pouring, but you always want to be able to pour from when your cup is spilling over versus when you have barely left for yourself. That kind of limits the amount of time I have to go in my hermit mode when I'm not pouring from an empty cup. I can continue to show up for myself. And I'm a very selfless person. Being a mom has definitely made me very selfless. So I don't mind helping, but there needs to be boundaries in every realm. So forgiving others, like I said before, was probably the first easiest thing to do. And forgiving my mom and my dad was like the biggest because they were my first two people in my life where they showed me love. And I adopted those practices and applied them to my life. Like I said before, my childhood was very limited. I was hindered and hidden, and a lot of experiences I didn't get to experience until I was older. My dad and I's relationship kind of have always been rocky since then, but I know he loves me, and I know he was doing his best with what he knew. Were there things that I wish I could change now? Probably no. I think everything was meant to go the way it was. With me and my mom, I love her. My mom is the cool one. I have a lot of her personality traits. I dress my kids alike. She dressed us alike. She's very very much a host when it comes to gatherings, and I have that so bad. So I had to forgive them for the things that I was raised around or just things that they didn't explain to me to make life a little bit more smoother for me as an adult. And then I finally was able to forgive myself. This was the hardest one for me because I feel like I'm a know-it-all. I feel like I'm very smart, and I really just couldn't understand how I let myself go down a lot of these paths when I knew when I felt in myself that these were the wrong decisions. So forgiving yourself when you know you knew better is kind of hard because it's like you ignored yourself for the sake of other people. I had abandoned myself, and then I allowed other people to abandon me, and I let that take a toll on me. So forgiving myself was very difficult. To this day, I'm still forgiving myself, but it's not in a way where it hinders me or where I'm mad at myself or I feel as if that I'm not worthy because I let those things happen. So now I'm in a place of centering all my relationships around God and fostering discernment and grace. So I'm always still a helping hand with people when they have situations that they need to share or get advice from. And I practice discernment when I'm dating and when I come across different people. I pay attention to the red flags so I can save myself the disappointment later in those relationships. And then I give myself grace and I give other people grace. I forgive, I reopen doors for people even after I've forgiven or betrayal, but there are boundaries in place. I tend to believe people the first time around, so by the second time I've already have a good picture on where you are, and if I can be any use to you, I definitely, sprinkle a little bit of my wisdom, but I definitely give people grace because we're all going through our own journey on our own path, and I don't think that anybody is further ahead than they should be. We're on our own timing. Which brings me to the point of why I'm using this platform to share. I want to help others along with their journey and give them an outlet to speak on their experiences so we can kind of help each other and create a community of growing emotionally, mentally, physically, and also spiritually. Ultimately, that's where the goal is to be. So I want to use my testimony. I want to use my experiences, and I would love to use your experiences to help this mission, and we can just create a community together to foster growth. in a graceful manner. So no bitterness, no regrets, no anything like that harbors negative energy. We want this to be a positive outlet where we can help everyone and help each other get through situations, similar situations, different situations, talk about perception because that plays a big part of it, and grow together ultimately. We all get carried away with our day-to-day schedule and routines, and social media, like I said, shines a light on everyone's personal best. So we are all flawed here, and I don't want you all to feel alone in your journey because God is with us. I am with you. We're all with you, and we're all going through our own path differently. So this is a platform to share our experiences, to grow with our experiences. These are all spiritual experiences, not personal. We are just in our flesh, and getting rich doesn't solve problems, and neither does being married, because you can be rich and still battle internal problems, and then you can be married and still feel alone. So a lot of these titles definitely take away from the realness of what we are all facing, and that's suffering in some way, shape, or form. So in the episodes to come, I plan to accept Q&A. You can leave comments and questions on our YouTube channel. Just type in your questions or comment or experience, and I can provide reflection, perspective. I'm also looking for hosts to come in and share their testimonies. Also, you can reach us by email, growthpurposesonly@gmail.com. And I would like to foster a community of growth with like-minded individuals. There's no limits to our growth, so topics tend to range from faith, fear, trauma, childhood, parenting, rejection, deception. We can go on and on about it all. So, like I said before, remember you are not alone in this journey. It's spiritual, not personal. Grow gracefully.